I'm on vacation in the Maldives right now, so I'll leave her funeral to you.
On the day of my mother-in-law Emily's funeral, she had passed away suddenly. My husband Kevin was nowhere to be found. I tried contacting him multiple times, but I couldn't get through. His relatives attending the funeral whispered among themselves, wondering why Kevin, the one supposed to lead the ceremony, wasn't there. As time ticked on, I grew more anxious and kept trying to reach him. Finally, he picked up. "Where are you? It's already started." When I asked where he was, his response made no sense. He told me he was on a trip to the Maldives. I was completely floored by how irresponsible he was. There's no saving this man. I made up my mind to follow the instructions left in the will Emily had given me. My name is Jessica Adams. I'm 45 years old and work as a nurse. I have an 18-year-old daughter, Emma, who's preparing for college entrance, and a 15-year-old son, Jack, who's busy with high school tests. Emma and Jack, have you finished your studies?
We know, Mom. I'll start right after this show's over.
Me too.
Encouraging them to study has become a part of my daily routine. Kevin works as a company employee. He's always been a serious guy, a workaholic, and so disinterested in the family that our marriage has grown cold, as have his relationships with our kids. Even when we were newlyweds, he was hardly ever home because of work, but I thought he would change once we had kids. But Kevin stayed the same. No matter how chaotic things were at home with the kids, he never came home early.
I'll be late because of work tonight too.
But I'm on the night shift. You said you'd be home early.
I have work too, Jessica. I can't always do what you want.
He knew my work schedule was irregular because of my shift work, yet he was never cooperative, which frustrated me. Eventually, his lack of support led to us no longer sharing a bed, and we started living more like a couple only in name. Emma and Jack used to ask when their dad would be home, but at some point, they stopped asking. Now, even when they see him, they barely speak unless absolutely necessary. Because I'm a nurse, I sometimes have night shifts and need to leave the house. During those times, I would ask Emily, who lived nearby, for help. "Emily, I have a night shift tomorrow. Could you watch the kids for me?"
Of course, Jessica. You can rely on me. I'm just around the corner.
It was nice to have such an easygoing relationship with Emily, who lived close by. When the kids were little, I would secretly ask Emily and her husband to come over after Kevin left for work, and they would help me take care of the kids. "Emily, how are you these days?"
Oh, Jessica, you've come to see me again. Thank you so much for always coming. Can we chat today too?
Since we lived so close, I'd regularly visit her between work and household chores to keep her from feeling lonely. Emily was such a kind person, but Kevin had been treating her coldly for the past 5 years. That was because 5 years ago, when Kevin's dad passed away, he learned that Emily wasn't his biological mom, but his dad's second wife.
Actually, I wanted to tell you this after your dad passed away.
What is it, Mom? You sound so serious.
The truth is, Kevin, your real mom is someone else.
What do you mean?
I wasn't your birth mom. Your real mom was someone named Sarah Foster.
What are you talking about? Explain.
Your dad originally dated Sarah Foster, married her, and had you. But after giving birth, she fell ill and passed away.
So why did Dad marry you?
Your dad found it too hard to raise you while also working. Maybe it would be different now, but back then, that was really tough. So, as his coworker and someone who was already helping out a lot, I stepped in to take care of you.
I don't remember any of that.
You were only about 3 months old. You always saw me as your mom, and over time, I grew feelings for your dad, and we got married. I always had a bit of a crush on him anyway.
So you stole my dad from my real mom?
No, it wasn't like that. I just happened to be there. Your dad isn't to blame for this. I was the one who.
I don't want to hear your excuses. Just stop.
Kevin was shocked to discover that the mom he had believed in all his life wasn't his biological mom. Perhaps it was the way Emily delivered the news, but Kevin took it as if she had stolen his dad from his biological mom, and he became furious. That was the moment Kevin began speaking badly about Emily. Kevin's dad had remarried Emily before Kevin was old enough to remember, and Kevin had held an idealized image of his biological mom. It seemed that Kevin had always found Emily's strictness hard to bear, and from that point on, he became more critical of her.
So, all this time, I was raised harshly by someone who wasn't even my real mom?
Maybe Emily's strictness was her way of showing love.
I knew something was off. She was always so hard on me. She probably hated me the whole time.
No way. She was just being strict because she cared about you. No matter how much I tried to reason with him, Kevin remained deeply resentful of how strictly he'd been raised and refused to listen. I remember when we first started dating and began discussing marriage, he was already uneasy about introducing me to Emily. But after meeting her, I didn't feel the same way. She seemed like a truly good person to me. Looking back, Kevin may have had an aversion to Emily from even before we got married. One day, after coming home with our daughter Emma from her tutoring session, Kevin's behavior suddenly changed.
I'll take Emma to her tutoring sessions from now on.
Really? You'll do that? Thanks. Kevin, who had always been interested in the kids, started going out more often and eagerly volunteered to take Emma to her classes. Hey, Emma?
Yeah?
Your dad said he'll take you to your lessons now. Is everything okay with that?
Well, it's weird since he never cared before, but he's doing a good job so far.
Even though I was suspicious, Emma didn't seem to mind, so I decided to let Kevin handle it. Life was hectic with both kids. Emma, Jack, don't push yourselves too hard with studying, okay?
We only have a little time left, so I'm going to work hard till the test.
Me too. Just one more week.
I kept making late-night snacks for them as they studied late into the night. Finally, they both finished their tests.
Mom, I got my acceptance letter from the college.
I got a good score.
Congratulations to both of you. Let's go tell Grandma the good news.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
So we all headed to Emily's place to tell her the good news.
Grandma, we're here.
We called out, but there was no response from Emily. When we went into the living room, we found her collapsed on the floor. Emily, are you okay? There was no reaction to my voice, and even when I tapped her on the shoulder, she didn't respond. As a nurse, I had a terrible feeling, but I quickly gave instructions to my kids. Emma, call 911 now. Jack, get Grandma's insurance card and purse from the drawer. While giving orders, I checked Emily's pulse, but it was very weak. I felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, and while performing CPR, I waited for the ambulance. Even though I thought we called the ambulance as fast as possible, Emily didn't make it. She had died from acute heart failure. Her sudden passing left me in shock. Emma and Jack stood beside me, paying their respects to Emily. But Kevin still hadn't shown up, and I thought maybe he still couldn't forgive her. Just as we were about to move Emily's body to the funeral home, Kevin finally arrived. "I've been calling you nonstop. Why are you so late?"
It doesn't matter. I made it for the transfer, didn't I? No big deal.
That's not the point. Emily passed away. I was irritated by how little Kevin seemed to care, but I switched my focus back to Emily and her funeral. While preparing for the funeral, I was organizing Emily's belongings and came across her will. A will addressed to me? What could she have wanted to say? I followed the proper procedure and read the will in advance. I was surprised by its contents, but decided to focus on the funeral for now. I'll discuss this with Kevin later, I thought as I got back to the preparations for Emily's service. Even though Kevin hadn't helped with any of the preparations, I assumed he'd at least show up on the day of the funeral. But on the day itself, Kevin was nowhere to be seen, and no matter how many times I called, I couldn't reach him. I kept trying, and finally, he picked up. "Where are you? The service has already started."
I'm on vacation in the Maldives. You handle the funeral, Jessica.
Kevin's words were unbelievably irresponsible. "What? Are you serious? You haven't helped at all, and now you're not even showing up?"
She wasn't my real mom, so it's fine if I don't go.
"If that's your excuse, then I have no relation to her either. She raised you with so much care."
I don't care.
I was so disgusted by Kevin's lack of responsibility that I decided he was beyond saving. That's when I resolved to follow Emily's will exactly as she had outlined. The funeral went smoothly despite everything. As we were leaving, relatives started asking me about Kevin's whereabouts.
I can't believe you didn't even show up to the funeral for Emily, who raised him all these years.
He's so ungrateful. Emily practically married his dad just to support him, and she was the one who did most of the raising.
Many were critical of Kevin for not attending the funeral, let alone acting as the host, as was expected. I'm so sorry, but please, let's not dwell on that today. I think it would only sadden Emily.
You're right. We should focus on remembering Emily today.
The relatives listened to my request and spent the day sharing fond memories of Emily.
Emily was really talented at her job. So when we heard she was going to become a stay-at-home mom for Kevin's dad, we were shocked.
Oh yes, I remember. We were all surprised.
We even opposed it at first, but Emily wouldn't hear of it, and it caused quite the stir back then.
They shared stories of when Emily became Kevin's mom. I see. Emily was such a big help to me. Even though she worked so hard, she was always there for me when I needed her most. I'm incredibly grateful to her. As we reminisced about Emily, I felt that we had honored her well that day. Personally, I didn't have much time to grieve, as I was preoccupied with everything I had planned to do next. A few days later, Kevin returned from the Maldives and called me.
What the hell is going on? I can't live in my own houses.
I sold the house because I decided to divorce you.
What?
Kevin was speechless, completely caught off guard.
What do you mean? Why are both my house and the family home gone?
In fact, the house that my children and I now live in together was given to me by my parents when I got married. But up until now, we had been living elsewhere because Kevin didn't want to move into the house. My parents gave us a house when we got married. Why don't we move there? Before we got married, Kevin and I had been living together to avoid clashing schedules because of my job as a nurse.
I'm not moving into a house with my in-laws. It'd look like I can't provide for myself.
Kevin had always refused to move into the house because he felt it would make him look incompetent to anyone who visited. So I divorced and sold the house I was living in with Kevin. But since the house was in my name, I sold it and moved. On top of that, Emily had arranged for her family home to be sold after her death, a decision she had entrusted to her lawyer. Apparently, Emily had been preparing for the possibility that Kevin might try to rely on her home, and had instructed her lawyer to handle the sale in case anything happened to her. So, by the time Kevin returned, both his family home and our house were gone. Stunned by the situation, Kevin couldn't accept it, and I told him about our divorce. That's why I sold the house. I want a divorce.
I don't understand any of this.
The house we were living in was in my name, so I sold it and moved into the house my parents gave me. Emily had also arranged for her family home to be sold after she passed away.
What? How could you do that without telling me?
I patiently explained to Kevin that Emily had instructed her lawyer to sell the family home, and that I had sold our house because I wanted a divorce. Divorce was mentioned in Emily's will, and I know you've been stalking some girl, by the way.
How do you know about that?
Emily looked into it. She thought something was off with your behavior. I pointed out that Emily had uncovered Kevin's stalking behavior, which had been detailed in her will. Kevin's anger was so apparent that I could feel it through the phone. According to Emily's will, she had found out about Kevin's stalking, hired a private investigator, and gathered evidence. The will also instructed that I divorce him to protect myself, Emma, and Jack, and left her estate to our children. After explaining the contents of Emily's will, Kevin became furious when he realized that he wouldn't receive any inheritance. For me, the will was shocking, but I felt a sense of relief and joy knowing that the inheritance would go to our children, and that it included a mention of my divorce from Kevin. It turned out that the girl Kevin had been stalking was Emma's friend, Isabella, from her tutoring class. Isabella was a cute high school girl, exactly Kevin's type. Although Emma didn't go, Isabella and her friends had gone on a graduation trip to the Maldives to celebrate their college acceptances, and Kevin had followed them there with the intent to stalk Isabella. Kevin was hit with both the divorce and a restraining order filed by Isabella.
It's not my fault.
Kevin muttered some nonsense, but he was soon taken away by the police and ended up in custody for a while. Isabella got a restraining order against him, and the matter was resolved with a settlement payment. When Kevin was brought to the police station, Isabella was already there as the victim.
It's him. He's been following me around. I didn't know how to say it because he's my friend's dad.
Isabella, I can't believe this.
Kevin seemed devastated that Isabella had identified him as the stalker.
I never said you could call me by my first name. It's creepy. Stop it.
Kevin, you've been warned. Don't contact Isabella again. You managed to settle this time, but who knows what will happen next time.
The officer's words made Kevin visibly flinch. And so, the issue of Kevin stalking Isabella was finally put to rest. I reported the entire situation to Kevin's company. Good morning. This is Jessica Adams, Kevin Adams' wife. May I speak with the HR manager, please?
May I ask what this is regarding?
I have something to report about Kevin Adams that I believe the company should be aware of.
One moment, please.
The receptionist, clearly puzzled by my request, reluctantly put me through to the HR manager.
This is Ken, the HR manager. How can I help you?
Ken seemed curious, and I could tell he was wondering why an employee's wife was calling. I'm sorry to bother you during a busy time. I'm Jessica Adams, Kevin's wife. I wanted to inform you that Kevin has been involved in a stalking case and was issued a restraining order. He also paid a settlement.
What? Is that true?
Ken was shocked, and his voice trembled with disbelief. Yes, it's true. Additionally, we are getting divorced, so feel free to discuss the details with him directly.
Thank you for informing us. We'll confirm with him and take appropriate action.
Ken's voice sounded calm but tired, as though he understood the gravity of the situation. It was clear that the company would need to deal with it, and the implications were likely exhausting to consider. Thank you again. Goodbye. After that call, the company decided on Kevin's fate, and he was fired. Our divorce was finalized, and Kevin paid child support in one lump sum. After that, I never heard from him again. The divorce is final now.
Yeah, it is. But about child support?
I won't accept anything but a lump sum. I don't want to be tied to you for life just because of child support payments. I cut Kevin off before he could say anything further about child support. Seeing me like this, he looked a little scared. It seemed that I had grown stronger emotionally after everything we'd been through. I owe it all to my kids, and I'm truly grateful for them.
What about the kids? Will I be able to see them in the future?
I've left that decision up to them. Whether this is the last time you see them or not is up to them, but you can see them now if you'd like. Emma and Jack had been waiting in the next room in case Kevin wanted to meet them. Emma and Jack, come here. Your dad wants to see you.
Okay,
Emma, Jack.
I appreciate that you've agreed to pay child support, but I've never considered you a dad. You have no idea how much Mom has been through.
When I was little, I loved how hard you worked, Dad. But over time, I realized that wasn't the case. So, when you ask me what I think of you now, I really don't know.
Yeah, I get it. I've been a terrible dad.
I don't know if I want to see you again or not. I need time to think about it.
Me too. I need some time.
I'm sorry. I've caused you so much pain. And Jessica, I'm truly sorry for everything.
On the day our divorce was finalized, Kevin, who had never apologized before, was moved by our kids' honest words and even apologized to me. 7 years have passed since then, and today I'm attending my daughter's wedding. Congratulations. I hope you have a lifetime of happiness ahead.
Mom, thank you for everything. After I started college, I've been on my own. But even before that, you raised me and Jack almost entirely by yourself. And you still worked so hard as a nurse. You raised us so well.
That's not true. It's because of you and Jack that I was able to keep going, even when it was tough. My daughter had found a wonderful partner, and her smile radiated happiness. Kevin hadn't been invited to the wedding per Emma's request, so I was the one walking her down the aisle. As I walked with her down the aisle, I reflected on all the hard times, but also silently wished that my children's futures would be filled with nothing but happiness.